Okay, next, we'll be talking about hue and saturation. What is hue? The property of colors by which they can be perceived, ranging from red through yellow, green, blah, 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 blah. What really is hue is your color. Hue is the color. What's saturation? Saturation is how much color. So these are, once again, all things that we can change in Photoshop, and you've seen the images manipulated this way all the time, even if you're not aware of it. So how we can adjust hue and saturation. You just go up to the toolbar, you go to Image, Adjustments, and then Hue Saturation, and then that'll bring up some sliders, and we can change some things around. So Image, then Adjustments, then Hue and Saturation. Or you can always just use the shortcut Control U or Command U. And then these sliders will come up, and then things can be adjusted, things can be played with. The hue on the saturation is based on the color wheel. You'll see these sliders there, and just because the slider is on blue doesn't mean that's what color you're going to make it, or just because you're going to slide it to red doesn't mean that's what color it's going to change to, because if your object is already yellow and you add blue to it, it's going to turn into a different color. It's going to turn into green, actually. Or if your color is already purple and then you go over to the green section, it's going to be a different color. So you'll have to play with the slider a little bit to figure out exactly how to get the color you exactly want. So again, hue is this color, saturation is how much color, lightness, obviously, how bright of a color. So let's get into this a bit, because this is pretty fun. I like this a lot. So here is my ducky again. He's already up and going, so that's good. Let's select his beak here. I'm going to get his beak with my magic wand tool. Right here. I've got it all. Now we can just go to Image, Adjustment, Hue, Saturation, and here are my sliders as advertised. So if I slide this way, even though this is in the green, you'll notice that he's become a little purple. And as we keep going, it's getting darker and darker. And I like that. I like that light blue duckbill. That's pretty fun. But again, as we move, you see how things change. And adjust using the hue and saturation. So I want to go back to this just because I like it. I'm going to change the saturation. I'm going to maybe make it a little lighter. A little brighter there. Now he's just got like this really super fun beak, and that is good times. And then once again, if you want, you can always use Command U, and that brings this up. Or the process is Image, Adjustments, Hue and Saturation, and then it'll get all this. And then when you're done, if you like it, I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Then I just deselect, and now I've got a ducky with a blue bill, and how fun is that? Now, the hue and saturation portion of Photoshop is not the only way to change the color of something or to put the color of something. You can also use the paint bucket. It fills similarly colored areas with the foreground color. I'll show you what that means. The shortcut to get to this tool is G. It also shares a shortcut with a different tool, which is the gradient tool, which is why the shortcut is G. But we'll get to the gradient next week, actually. So if you're ever looking for the paint bucket, if you're ever looking for the little thing that looks like a paint bucket, but you can't find it in your toolbox, take a look for the gradient tool, and it might be underneath there. So you just left click, hold it down, it'll bring up all of the options here, and then paint bucket will be one of them, and you can just get to that. Paint bucket also has a tolerance, since it is dealing with color, so you can change how strong you want the paint bucket to dump color onto this area, or how much area, or how little area. So choosing the color for the paint bucket tool, just clicking on the foreground will do it. And then the color picker box will open up, and then you can always just move the color picker around a little bit till you get to the color that you want. Or you can do the same thing in Windows. You can go to the color window and it will pop up on the right hand side. This also tends to be more of a default window, so you can always find it there as well. Or another fun way is using the eyedropper tool. The eyedropper tool works just like an eyedropper does. You've got an eyedropper, you go and you slurp up a little bit of liquid, and then you've got the liquid in the eyedropper, and then you use the paint bucket to dump it down. So you got 3 different ways to use tools to change colors of things, as opposed to the hue and saturation. So once again, 3 different ways to choose a color. This is so important. If we had a test, this would definitely be on it. We don't have a test, we're just going to do stuff. So you can always click the foreground color in the toolbox. You can choose from the color palette, or you can use the eyedropper tool. Let's do some of these now. So here we still got our ducky. He's looking good, but I do want to change. Let's change the color of one of his eyes. So we're going to use our magic wand to select this one eye. I like what's going on there now. So now this eye is selected. Now I can do something with it. Now I can play with it. Right now, my foreground color is this light kind of Tiffany blue, if you will. So if I just select that, then it brings up this color picker, and then I can change it. Maybe I want to keep the Tiffany blue, maybe I want to make it red. Then I select here, this is a very dark red. Hit OK. That's good there now. Now I can go to my paint bucket tool right here. I can go up over here, I can see there's a little arrow where I want my paint bucket to dump colors. Click on that, and now I've got a ducky with a red eye. Then I can deselect that, and now I've got red-eyed ducky. Right? Or I could change my foreground color by clicking over here in my color palette. Maybe I want him to be orange. That's not orange, that's purple, excuse me. Maybe I want to be purple. That's fine too. So if I go back to selecting the eye, I've got this guy over here. That's good. Go back to my paint bucket. Click on that. Now he's got a purple eye, and that's fun too. So I can always try to find colors like this and just kind of mess around with that. But maybe I've got a color that I really want to use specifically. Like maybe I want this ducky's eye to be the color of... No. Oh yeah. Something a little more realistic, like this jacket. So what I may do is zoom in a bit. Now I'm going to use my color dropper tool. I'm going to make sure that I'm on the correct layer here. So I've got my eyedropper tool right here. I click that, and you see as I click that, now the color shows up in my color swatches. So this is one way. This green's a little lighter. If I get up in here, I'm slurping up this color, but I want to do this green color right now. So now that I have used the eyedropper to suck up this color, I go back to ducky. I go back to my paint bucket to dump this color down on his eye. Now he's got that green eye. Get this eye. And maybe I want to use the color dropper on his bill here. There it is. Then go to the paint bucket, dump the color down on this eye. And now we've got different colored ducky eyes. And different ways to accomplish this. Different ways to get these different colors. The last thing we'll talk about today is the clone stamp tool. And this tool is used to copy or clone pixels from one area of the picture or another. You'll see this a lot when you're touching up old photographs or hurt photographs. This picture doesn't do a really good job, but let me show you an example of something that I've done. Let's go back to this. We're going to zoom back out here. Go to my navigator window. We'll get all the way out-ish. So this is basically the picture as it's been fixed already. I've hidden the original. You can see the original is here in the Layers tab. If I show you that, this is what the picture looked like originally. Zoom in a bit. You can see that it was torn in a very unfortunate way. But through a lot of work, a lot of clone stamping, this is what I came up with. So from a distance, you can't really see a lot of the big issues. You can still see some issues here, and I've actually worked on this further to get this even better. But you can see where we started, what I ended up with, and this was primarily using the clone stamp. So what does that mean? How does it work? let's talk a little bit how the clone stamp works. So actually using the clone stamp, how can we do that? Let me show you another quick example of how this can work. Right now I've got my sign here that I just would like to change. So I've got my background image. I've made a copy of this image. It's the exact same image. You can see, whoop, now there's no canvas. Whether this one's up or this one's up, doesn't matter, but I'm going to work on this one just so I can always check back on the original to see what that looks like. So here, this sign is telling me, hey, no drones. So what I can do maybe is get rid of that action. I probably can't get rid of the entire picture here, but I can at least kind of play with this a little bit and have some fun there. So while it's telling me no drones, I'm going to zoom in a bit. Now sometimes with Photoshop you just need to get close. You need to zoom in and really get in there. Or I can hold down Alt and zoom out. Whatever makes me happy. So I'm going to get in a little bit closer here. Go over to my clone stamp here. I've got a pretty big area right here right now, so I'm going to hold down Alt. I'm going to get this area, and then I'm going to cover up here. Then here, hold down Alt, get this area, and then right about there. Then once again, Alt, here, now if we zoom out, now it just looks like I've got kind of a smudgy sign there. You know, you don't need to be able to read English to understand what this is, but it's not explicitly telling me, so maybe I can go fly drones over there. Maybe because I don't speak sign. So that's one way to get rid of some signs or some letters using the clone stamp.